Hi everyone, in this lesson we are going to be talking about graphing a quadratic equation. Very first important thing is this quadratic equation has to be in the standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, or fx equals a squared plus bx plus c. And then I also would like you guys to remember that if you draw a x and y chart, this is your x and this is your y. For the notation purpose, you can write down x and then you have your f of x. Then you can also have input and you have output. And then you have input and output. You also have domain, which is you going to learn, and range. You also have independent variable and dependent variable. You eventually will have in science representing the same thing, which is going to be the exploratory, and you also will have the name as response. On the x-axis, the y-axis. Hopefully this will help you clear up on the different vocab. When we go on reading this stuff, I know there's a lot of material, but let's do one thing at a time and I'll put them all together. The graph of a quadratic function is a U shape. Remember in class I call it the rice bowl. And the upside down U shape. And that's called a parabola. So a quadratic equation will give you a parabola shape. And then they have such a thing is called the parent function. A parent function is what is the very first one. And then everything kind of revolve around a shift up, shift down, shift left, shift right, and flip it and those kind of things. But they always base off one very basic. And then the next one, the next basic graph in the family of a quadratic function. So that's called the parent function. Parabola opens if a is bigger than 0 or greater than 0, therefore it's positive. And if you're positive, you're smiling. Think about the smiling. And if you are smiling, your parabola facing up. Okay? And this is a parabola facing up. You are smiling. And then open down if A is negative. Think about negative. It's a front face. So it's facing down. And also I will call it that my rice bowl is full. So therefore you look like you are very happy. Rice bowl is full. And then you are sad. The rice bowl is empty, negative. All right, so hopefully that will help you remember. Then the next thing we have is it has a vertex. The vertex is the highest point. If you have, look at like down parabola, and if you have the lowest point, you have up parabola. And then eventually if you draw it, you will actually know. And here's also another vocab, it's called the turning point. And when your turning point means if you go up and you go down, that point that goes down, that's called the turning point. And if you go up again at the point where you do the turning, it's going to be going, it's called the turning point. Okay, so based on those kind of situation, we are going to find the x coordinates of the vertex is by finding negative b over 2a, and that's also your symmetry line. The y coordinates is just after you find negative b over 2a using the x value, then you plug it back in to the original equation. Then the x symmetry is going to be the negative b over 2a right here. So I'm going to highlight a couple things for you. So hopefully that will make sense. X coordinates is negative b over 2a. And the y coordinates of the vertex is going to be plug x value into the original equation. All right, and the x of symmetry is going to be the equation right here. And then it's always x equal to because it's a vertical line. So right now I'm going to go on to do number 3 first, and I'll come back to do 1 and 2. So going to number 3, we are going to check 1 is everything in standard form, and in this case it is. And then leading coefficient is 1 with a label of x squared, which is your highest exponent going first, and that's called the standard form. So once you do that, I would like you guys to write down what's your A, what's your B, what's your C. That way you know the numbers right away so you don't get mixed up. A in this case is any number in front of x squared. So it's right here. And in this case, because we don't have any number, we only have an x squared, the number will be just 1. And the B is going to equal to -6. And the C is going to be 8. So the numbers coming from is right here. Okay, once you do that, it's much easier to see. Now we have talked about, since the open is based off the A, and A in this case is bigger than 0, so it's going to be positive. And if you are positive, you are smiling, and therefore the parabola facing up. Okay, then the next one is we also be able to tell y-intercept, because from previously we were told that C is y-intercept. And so if you have that y-intercept, you should know that's when x equals 0. And because that's going to be x, it's going to be 0, comma 8. That's another point. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to move on to vertex. And to get vertex is literally finding the x of symmetry, which is, this is also the same formula. That's x equals -b over 2a. And I'm going to work on the symmetry line first, or if you want to, I can even put it down, -b over 2a. So they are exactly the same place. So if you work it out, your -b, which is -6 parentheses square over 2 times 1, and that's going to be 6 over 2, and that's going to be 3. And once you get the 3, you're going to plug into the original equation to get my other part of vertex. So original equation is going to be y equals x squared minus 6x plus 8. Please make sure you plug in the number first before you start working out. So it's going to be 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 8. And once you do that, you will have 9 minus 18 plus 8. And therefore, it's going to be -1. So your vertex is going to be -3, -1. And that is from here and here. Okay, so because we already found out what is my -b over 2a, I can really write it again, negative of -6 over the 2 times 1. That's going to be 6 over 2. That's going to be 3. So that's really x equals 3. And that will be your symmetry line. So that is all the different parts. Now, we got the vertex, we got the symmetry line. What we're going to do is we need to figure out everything else. And to find everything else, because the parabola from the vertex is where we're going to start working. So if you are thinking about it, you have a vertex right here. And then if you draw it, you want the parabola to be very close here to your vertex, so your graph is not going to be off. So the way we're going to do it to pick points is we're going to put down our vertex, which is in this case is going to be 3, comma, -1. And I'm going to pick the two numbers before and after 3. So in this case, I'm going to pick 2, 1. So it's 1, 2, and then be 2 after it, so it's 4 and 5. The reason for that is because that will put the graph very close to the graph paper and very close to the vertex on the graph paper, so you will not have a ridiculous number that is not gonna be on the paper. So once we do that, we are going to make sure that we can plug in the equations, plug the numbers into equations. So we are going to go up to find the problems. The problem is going to be if I plug in 2 and 1, I like to work with smaller number. So let's start with 2. If I plug in with 2, that's going to be to the original equation. So now you are taking all your numbers from the chart and put it right back to the original equation. So once you do that, what you're going to have is you have 2 square minus 6 square. Oh, I'm sorry. 2 square minus 6 times 2, because 2 is an x, and then plus 8. Now work it out. That's going to be 4 minus 12 plus 8, and that is going to be 12. So therefore, that's going to be 0. So 2 is 0. Then the next one be the 1. So it's going to be 1 square minus 6 times 1 plus 8. And that is going to be 1 minus 6 plus 8. That's going to equal to 3. And then we are going to write down 3 here. And if you want to double check one more time, we can totally check on the other side, plug into the original equation. That's going to be 4 parentheses square minus 6 times 4 and plus 8. And that's going to be 16 minus 24 plus 8. And that's going to be 0. And then we are going to plug in the 5 square minus 6 times 5 plus 8, and that's going to be 25 minus 30 plus 8, and that is going to be 3. So if you look at it, the number 0 match up to the 0 before, so that's 0. Those two are matched. And if you look again, the last one is 3, but then therefore they match up to the next one. So now what we're going to do is we are going to plot it. And when you plot them, you always start off with a symmetry line. That's the way I like to do it, because then I know they're supposed to come out evenly. So symmetry line in this case is going to be at 3. That's your symmetry line. Okay, and that's also called the x of symmetry and starts at x-axis. So symmetry line goes down at 3 right here, and I just dot it. It's easier that way. And then what we're going to do is we have the vertex. Now vertex is right here. That is the vertex, and that's also the vertex. So vertex is going to be at 3, -1 right here. So that's -1. Then the next one is gonna be 2, 0, 2, 0 right here, and then you should be able to see that's gonna be 4, 0 which is exactly point we have. And then you have 1 and 3, you have 1 and 3 up here, and that's the same thing is 5 and 3. And you can tell they are all balanced on both sides, and they have the equal distance from here to here. They are the same. They both have 2 space in between. So here's my parabola. Now you say, but can we use this y-intercept? And absolutely. So if you want to, you can go up to a. Sometimes it doesn't fit in the graph, but most of the time it does. So if you want to go up, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are going to dot that. You can get another point out of it. 3 space from symmetry. Therefore 3 space. And then if you want to, you can make the line or the graph even better because you can connect them better. So here is the points. And then there is the other one with the better points. Here's your parabola. So that's how you graph a parabola from a quadratic equation.